The number is right there on your screens. Would love to know your feedback on the same, and of course engage us as much as you can during this conversation. You're very much welcome to do so. So I'll begin with you, Anjira. What is your perspective on the same, on the question?
First of all, let me begin by sending my very sincere condolences to the comrades that were arrested and beaten very badly yesterday and injured as well. And to answer your question, I think we've made some significant strides in terms of the political sphere in this country, but we've not achieved our ultimate goal, which is about the living conditions of the people of Kenya. This is what the protests were about. It was about creating a better life for the majority of the struggling masses of this country. It was about healthcare, it was about education, it was about housing, it was about food, it was about employment. It was about getting services for the taxes we are paying. Because if you remember, the 2023 bill, people were already protesting against it, but did not come to the street. People had a problem with it, but did not come out to protest the way we have seen with the 2024 bill. The 2024 bill, people came out because doctors were already on strike, saying, why is it that we are not being paid? Teachers were already striking. School-going children were already being denied food. And we, as taxpayers, we were paying more taxes, yet not seeing any services coming to the people. And then a bill is introduced to increase even more taxes. This is when Kenyans were like, hold up, what's going on here? We are not going to allow this kind of situation, especially in a situation where corruption is rampant and controlled. EACC has completely failed this country from the onset. We've not seen anything the EACC has been able to do in terms of curbing corruption. So when we Kenyans, we look every other institution that is supposed to be working for the people, even IPOA, an absolute failure. And we've been calling out IPOA for the last 10 years, documenting cases of extrajudicial executions in Mathare. So now it's a national conversation that, hey, what's going on with the people's institutions? Why is it that we are not getting the services that we deserve as Kenyan people? These institutions are funded by taxpayers' money, but we do not get any service. People sit in the office and just eat taxpayers' money and don't deliver their services, including the outgoing president, William Samoei Ruto. Every single person in government has failed the Kenyan people. And now we as Kenyans said, this is our country. It is our duty to stand up for ourselves. It is our duty to fight bad governance, to fight corruption, to fight for better lives for ourselves and the future generations that will be coming, because we cannot continue like this.
Right. Kennedy, your perspective?
When oppression becomes the rule, then resistance becomes a responsibility. I want to say that indeed we've achieved significantly as protesters, because we went to the streets at first to ensure that the finance bill collapsed in its entirety. It did. Another significant achievement we've made as protesters is the shake in the executive. At least for the first time, the dictators are shaken and they have to retreat and re-strategize. So now they're going to speak to their bosses. In the recent past, opulence manifested by the political class and the attitude of I don't care, I don't listen, it doesn't matter what you say, has actually been put to an end. The traffic harassment, we see politicians thinking that they are rushing to the next meeting to have a one-on-one with God, has actually been altered. So we are shaping and reshaping the country. I can tell you confidently that the protests have done something significant, and we are yet to achieve more, because I have just said that when oppression becomes the law, then resistance becomes a responsibility, and it is the responsibility of every Kenyan, as we speak today, us included, to ensure that anything punitive, anything in excess must be rejected, must be fought until we win the war. We shall only win the war when we sit in a political environment where young people are going to make political choices devoid of economic influence or ethnic extraction. The issue of our person doesn't put food on my table. Today, even if you were to give John Mbadi the CS, I as Sankara still have to toil and moil for my money. I still have to look for ways of paying my rent. I won't sit there because our man is in government. So what we actually want as the people of Kenya is a betterment of service delivery to the people. Because when we look at Chapter 6 of the Constitution, the primary objective of that law is to ensure that leaders respect the objectives, values and principles of the Constitution. By so doing, we are going to have all these things we are speaking about achieved. We are not asking for tokens from William Ruto. We are only telling him behave so that everything can fall in its place, and that's what we are doing. So the protest has actually achieved something, and we are yet to achieve more. But on yesterday,
right,
to mark, yesterday was my birthday actually. I'm Gen Z born on 8th August. Whatever I witnessed in town was uncalled for. A police officer, and I do refer to them as goons dressed in service attires. The man was ready to unleash his tear gas gun on me, and I was just saving a life. Imagine a city with tear gas canisters everywhere, an expectant woman rushing for delivery at KNH. I had to drop them there, and the most surprising thing is that I was being stopped at around City Hall, besides getting clearance from a female officer who pleaded with me to help the woman get to the hospital. The other gentleman, the other goon around City Hall was ready, aiming his gun at me and telling me, we D-minus materials do not listen to those kizungu mingi. And I was like, I'm not here to make you understand. I have a patient, you can see him at the back of my car. I have to drop at the hospital. So I want to tell the Kenyan Police Service, the word service is not an operation. It is offering the best attainable services to the people. Who are your bosses? We are the bosses. If we decide not to be governed today, even that police service will not exist. So I want to tell the police officers to behave, because going forward we will not entertain impunity of that extent.
I hear you. I mean, we had certain incidences yesterday, even journalists being harassed by the police, and others getting kicked. Larry Mado, we saw being attacked directly by a tear gas canister while he was reporting on the same. So we've had these cases. Even our own Media Max journalist was shot from the other week of protest. So this has been something that, of course, that is also being highlighted. But before we get into that further, what you're saying basically, Kennedy, let us look at a different perspective, right? Also, while the protests were happening, we saw some residents of different counties who were saying, on our end, we will not be protesting because the president so far has made a raft of changes. Now, early in the morning, we saw him, of course, swearing in the new CSs. On the day of the Nane Nane protests, and we also saw the judiciary some weeks ago declaring the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional. We saw, of course, before that the CSs all being fired before these ones currently are being sworn in. So there's been a raft. So there are people who are also like, okay, this is a bit too much for me. Let me hold on. Let's just wait. Let's wait for some change. What do you describe that as, Wanjira? Because you're someone who has been on the forefront of activism since you were 17. So when you hear also such sentiments of people that who are not okay, economically, but they would just prefer, this to come down a bit because they need to make money here and there. What is your perspective on that?
I think it breaks my heart that someone would say, we are in government. You and who? You are at home, struggling for your daily survival, for your daily meal, for school fees for your children. And this is what the protests were about. This was not about a broad-based government. In fact, what we've seen is just the consolidation of the dictatorship. I can confidently say that Kenya is an absolute dictatorship right now under William Samoei Ruto. The freedom to protest is being curtailed. You cannot come out and criticize government without fearing for your life. The other thing is, tribalism has been a tactic that was used before this protest began by the ruling elite. That we say now, as Mount Kenya region, as the Lake region, as this. When we were having conversations with Bunge la Mwananchi members, one of the people said, I can see that my tribe is represented in government, but our women do not have Linda Mama, which is a primary concern for me. I can see that our tribe has been represented, but because these basic material conditions that we are advocating for have not been met, then we have not made any significant gains. This means that we need to intensify political education, so that people understand that politics is life, It is how we eat our food, it is how we go to school, it is our healthcare system, it is water, it is the very basic things that we interact with as people of this country. And we feel very sad that the president chose to form these cosmetic changes and not what the young people of this country were saying. And now we can see that we cannot achieve these reforms that we were advocating for under this dictatorship of William Samoei Ruto and his
acolytes.
Yeah.
All right, Wanjira, I get your point there, but Sankara, let me ask you this. Right, so like you've heard, I asked Wanjira there about the other perspective that other Kenyans may have, but we also have this new bill, right, the demonstrations bill, right, that was tabled. I believe it's in its first reading, whereby, you know, there's the aspect of protecting, you know, the citizenry, the Kenyans, when they're out on the streets from, you know, aspects of, you know, foul attacks and the same. But I would also like to bring into the perspective of the past, right? We've had protests in the country by activists who are very renowned, but there's a reason why they go left, you know, there's a reason why they turn violent, and history has it, you know, has recorded it. But in this particular act, what do you feel basically about it? You know, do you feel it's pushing for the agenda of us, or basically oppressing the right to, protest, pick it as it is enshrined in the Constitution, of course, connected to history, how it's been in the past?
I think some of the MPs who are proposing such draconian laws cannot even recite our national anthem to its finality in either of the languages. These are people who do not make laws for posterity. You remember one time an MP is on the opposition side, they vote for changes in that particular area. The moment they shift the camp, they find out that the same laws they made are now working against them. What does that communicate? We should always make laws for future, not for temporary gratifications and satisfactions, what most of our politicians do. I would say there is no law that is necessary in the country as long as the Kiganjo gang do not change their mindset on how they treat the people of Kenya when it comes to protest. I can confidently tell you, as a protester, one who has featured in this protest here and there, that we've never been violent as the people of Kenya. It is the people who are constitutionally mandated to protect the demonstrators who actually intentionally turn this demonstrations violent by carelessly using their arsenal where it is not necessary. You find a drunk police officer holding a gun with bullets and a tear gas canister. What do you expect? So we must first train the Kiganjo boys to behave humanly and professionally. Then the rest of the laws can come. It is not my right to know that a goon has been hired to infiltrate my protest. It is the responsibility of the police to provide that security to an extent that they can say, based on the observations we've made, the character exuded by a particular individual do not demonstrate the character of a peaceful protester. We have the powers to sieve them out. Here you find men and women drunk in power or with power, just aimlessly aiming at anyone moving around with tear gas canisters. Yesterday the town was littered, so those laws will not make change or sense unless or until the Kiganjo men and women are made to know that peaceful protest is not a crime against humanity. It is actually a constitutional right. And the drafters of the Constitution had in mind the characters of people like William Ruto and this government. That's why the provision was actually enshrined in the Constitution. It is an enshrined right. It's not a mere pronouncement. But we know the rule of law is relative. It only applies when a politician is to be protected while engendering impunity. But a citizen, an armless citizen, must be thwarted when exercising their constitutional right. So those laws will come, but they will not stop demonstrations from going on. Actually, if anything to go by, they are going to exacerbate the level, the energy in the participation of demonstrations. They've deployed everyone. Even yesterday, they deployed the police almost everywhere in town. The demonstrations were still successful. So no amount of intimidation shall sway us off the track. We shall always remain committed. Those are detractions. Whether they make laws to protect William Ruto in a glass shield, we don't care. The Constitution is still very clear that under Article 37, we have the right to peacefully assemble, demonstrate, picket, and present petitions to public officials. Those are not my words. Those are constitutional pronouncements.
Okay, Kennedy. Right, so we'll be back with this conversation. We're going on a short break. Stay with us.
We interrupt this program to bring you some breaking news.
Meet the team of undercover teenage spies working